This is kind of a end of the year review episode. This is the second to last episode of the year. So I want to do something special to remember some of our amazing episodes and guests we've had this year. You're listening to episode 111 of the Mom Talks with Christa podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this week as we are doing an end of the year review. And I'm so excited to share this episode with you because it means a lot to me. And it's just kind of a gratitude episode for all of you guys, for our guests and everything so on and in the future. All right. I hope everyone has having a great week so far. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of a end of the year review episode. This is the second to last episode of the year. So I want to do something special to remember some of our amazing episodes and guests we've had this year. And so, doing this show is something I am so passionate about. When it started, I was so nervous that I don't know, I just didn't really know how it would be received. I'd never done a show before, but everyone in this community has been so amazing and so kind with the messages. And that's really what inspires me and pushes me to keep doing what I'm doing. And it makes it all worth it. And it just be able to see the impact in the community that we have here has just been amazing. There's so much that goes into becoming a parent. And I'm in that phase now where I'm kind of like learning a lot of it now. But so many of the things we weren't taught growing up were not really taught until maybe we're having a baby, or maybe we're already a parent, or we're in that hospital room. And so there's so many questions that are left unanswered, so many differences of opinions. So what we aim to do with this show, which was still true when we started it, was to host a safe place to ask those questions, to hear differences of opinion, so we can then form our own based on what works best for us and feel understood and connected. That's so important because motherhood can be isolating. You can feel alone or lonely. And so being able to be connected and seeing what other people are going through is so important during this time. And so I really want to impact the women listening to the show to feel more empowered in their pregnancies, labor, motherhood, growth, life, career choices, whatever that is. I just want to empower you as much as possible. It's so important to me to feel like you have a voice. And now that I'm in my own pregnancy, like I was just kind of talking about, this show has helped me in more ways than I could have ever imagined. When I started out, I kind of knew that was down the line, but not super close. And now that it's here, it's like, wow, this knowledge from this show and all these guests on this show and this community has really helped empower me in finding my own voice. And so I just want to take the time and thank all the guests that's come on the show and giving others a voice. Like, the work you do is so amazing. And I think it's beautiful that we can all have differences of opinions or ways we live our life and come together and still help each other and support each other and empower each other. And so in my own journey now, I feel so empowered to stand up for myself, be an advocate for myself and for my baby. And I hope you find the same. And I hope the same applies to you. And it kind of becomes this effect that when you then speak about how empowered you are, you can help another mom to become empowered in her journey, her birth, her motherhood experience, whatever that looks like for her. And for you, I just think these positive voices, these real voices, it's not always, this positivity, but real voices can help other moms as well and feel comfortable in their own skin, sharing their own stories. All right. So I want to dive into today's episode. I know I could go on talking about this forever, but I just feel truly so grateful to be a part of this. And as we're wrapping up 2022, I just wanted to do a little different episode. So I want to share key clips from the top 5 downloaded episodes from this year. And it was so cool to look back and kind of see which ones people found interest in the most. But to be honest, there were so many close numbers between the ones that it was really hard to stop at 5. I was like, can we just do 10 or can we do 15? But I know you guys are busy moms, so you don't have the time to listen to a 3-hour podcast. So I just wanted to start with the top 5. But if you guys like this episode, let me know. And we can always do another clip episode of, top 5 breastfeeding ones, or top 5 labor, or top 5 pain management, or top 5 parenting, whatever it is. We can always do more categories like that if you guys like hearing more clips of this. So here we go. We're going to go through these top 5. I'm going to share a clip And we'll share in the show notes all of the links to the full episodes as well if you want to hear the full thing. All right, so here we go, starting with number 5. At number 5, we have show regular Kristen Sorondo, registered nurse and lactation consultant, talking about tips for working moms pumping at work. In today's clip, she talks about preparing to go back to work and what important questions to ask.
So when you guys are preparing to go back to work, you really want to kind of start preparing a little bit earlier than just say a week or two, I'm getting ready to go back to work. So if you are getting, say, 12 weeks off from work, and it's maybe around week 6, week 7, then what you guys want to do is go ahead and start doing a little bit of pumping. So that way you can start a little freezer stash. By doing that, that will help you not be so stressed when I go back to work and what I pump today is what the only milk that I have to feed baby tomorrow. So it's going to help just kind of decrease some of that stress. So making sure that you have your pump, you have like a pumping bag that you can take it to work. Make sure that you've already communicated with work itself, your office, the people that you work with, when you are coming back to work, that's your plan. So you kind of have all of that stuff taken care of. And then making sure that you've started already pumping to have a supply. But one of the biggest things too is don't wait until the last minute when you get ready to go back to work to try to introduce a bottle for the baby. Some babies are great, and no matter what you do, as far as interventions, whether it be breast, bottle, pacifier, they'll take anything. However, other babies are super sensitive. They just want mom. And the longer that you wait to do that, sometimes it can cause some complications and then super stressful that now you're getting ready to go back to work and you have a baby that won't take a bottle. So trying to do that definitely early on to where, maybe dad offer a bottle once a day, maybe once a week to kind of start. And then as it's getting closer and closer to going back to work, that maybe we're doing it weekly, every couple of days, just so you don't have that surprise right when you go back to work that the baby won't take a bottle.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned like preparing your team at work or your boss at work. So what kind of like questions or things did you kind of look into with your team beforehand or preparing them?
It really depends upon how big of a place that you work with. Do you work for a huge corporation that there's hundreds of employees, or are you in a small office where there's just a couple of you? If you have been with the company for a while and there's just a couple of you, you've probably already thought it before you went out on maternity leave. Okay, where am I going to pump? Does my office have a door to where I can have privacy? Is there somewhere here in this small building that we have that allows a space for me with some privacy? With a big company, you might not necessarily be aware because maybe your particular team or the people that you've worked with, nobody's been pregnant, nobody's had a baby. So you're not really sure what the company has to offer. So kind of during pregnancy in general, making sure that if you know that you're planning on breastfeeding, you're going to definitely continue at least pumping and bottle feeding once you go back to work. Prior to going on maternity leave, what resources do they have available to you, if any? Usually, if it's a bigger company, some of those things will already be in place. They might have a pumping room that they supply things for you. It might be in a different area that maybe you're not aware of. However, if you're with a small place, again, make sure that you are having that communication, with the boss. When I come back, I plan on being able to still produce milk for my baby. My office doesn't really have the availability to do that. Maybe it's a shared space or something like that. What can we do to accommodate that? So that way you're having that talk prior to even going on maternity leave. So that way you can kind of prepare and prep. And my biggest thing with moms is just have open communication and tell them, what your wishes are, what you would like, what do they already have in place that's available, just to make it a little bit easier when you go back that you've already established that. So that's one less stress stressor that you have in your life when you get ready to go back to work.
All right, guys, at number 4, we have Sarah Giannetta from her episode on hypnobirthing tips and tricks for a positive birth. In today's clip, she explains exactly what hypnobirthing is and how you can apply it to your birth.
So I think there are a lot of misconceptions about hypnobirthing. I think a lot of people think like it's, waving a pendulum in front of your face or like clicking fingers and, in that second, the mum's hypnotized and, she's in a trance. But the way I kind of like to explain it is it's more so like a deep relaxation or guided meditation is how I would best describe hypnobirthing. So it does use hypnosis techniques during birth, and that's where they get the term hypnobirthing. But for me, it is more of that deep relaxation, guided meditation, and kind of just using that to change mum's mindset during pregnancy so that, if there are fears or there are anxieties around labor and birth and that whole process, what we can do is then kind of get rid of those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts and create that positive mindset throughout the pregnancy, and then giving mum and dad or mum and, the support person tools to use throughout so they can stay calm, relaxed and positive. And that really helps to keep mum in control. And then she's more likely, to have a really good positive experience because she's able to make informed decisions because she's staying calm and positive. So it really does help to benefit the whole experience.
That's amazing. That's so cool to hear about, because I kept hearing people talk about it and I was like, I had never quite understood what it was like fully. And so to hear you explain it that way is really quite relaxing actually to think about. And that sounds awesome. I'm sure a lot of moms listening are like, that sounds very ideal to be in that relaxed state. Because I think a lot of times our minds so quickly put in negative thoughts or, the anxiety and fear around it.
Yeah, 100%. And especially if that's kind of all you've heard, growing up or into pregnancy, everyone likes to kind of get out their birth experience. And, unfortunately, a lot of those are negative birth stories, or they're like, make sure you get the epidural straight away, or, opting for a cesarean instead of going natural and things like that. And it's all about fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not kind of about the reality of labor and birth. So I also find that, during the course, and I think it's, different to other courses, especially ones that you would generally do in a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
is that we go over what your body is actually doing and the process of pregnancy and labor and birth, and how amazing that transformation is and how resilient and strong our body is. And I find that once women fully understand what their body is actually going to do, it gives them a lot of relief. And like, they're like, oh, when you understand what your body is doing, I think it makes it a lot easier, to experience the sensations of labor.
All right, at number 3, we have one of our most popular guests and a friend of mine. We have Liesl Teen, aka Mommy Labor Nurse, talking about what to expect at your first newborn appointment.
First appointment is typically like 3 to 5 days post-birth. Typically in the hospital, they'll see baby and the rounding pediatrician will see baby and just, assess baby while you're in the hospital. And then that first appointment is usually the day after you get home or 2 days after you get home, something like that. So they'll do a full physical assessment of baby. The most important thing that they're going to look at is their weight, because babies have a tendency to lose weight in those first few weeks, even few days, and then few weeks sometimes. So they're going to be looking at weight loss and putting them on their chart and seeing exactly what their percentage is and looking at their physical assessment. They might, if for some reason their weight loss is a certain percent, they might want to draw blood to see what a certain blood level is. It's called bilirubin, to see what a certain blood level is, to see if, sometimes we have babies who lose a little bit too much weight and they have to go under those Billy lights, the big bright lights because they're starting to get really jaundiced. Sometimes they have to go, back to the hospital for readmission. So weight is going to be a very, very important thing that they're checking for at that first appointment. And sometimes it's just a matter of like, okay, sometimes it's fine and their weight loss isn't drastic at all. Other times it's a little bit, teetering on the edge. And they say, okay, just, feed, breastfeed or, feed, and then come back in 24 hours and we'll just, keep assessing it and making sure that it's trending up. So weight's going to be very, very important. And then as far as their physical assessment, they're also going to check the length again. And actually, this is a funny thing. So with their length in the hospital, it's actually usually a little bit shorter those first few days, because if you think about baby's head and what it does in the birth canal, it's like really swollen when it first comes out. So they usually like lose a half inch. So people are like, what? My baby shrunk, but it's just because the swelling from the head. Yeah. So they'll check the length and then they'll check head circumference, and same kind of thing with the head circumference. Sometimes it's a little bit less. They'll check, heartbeat, breathing, their hips, their legs, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, throat, fontanelles. They want to check the soft spots on baby's head, make sure those, feel okay. Their genitals. So they'll check, especially if you have a boy and maybe you had your boy circumcised, they're going to check, that. And then they want to check, for if you have a boy, the testicles. So this is something I was talking to my pediatrician the other day about, actually, that it's so common for undescended testicles to get to like go undetected. So you'll want to make sure that your pediatrician is checking that to make sure that there's 2 testicles in there. They'll check for that. They'll check obviously for, the baby's skin and, any birthmarks. They'll check the baby's umbilical cord and make sure that's okay. Common thing that might not common, but sometimes what happens is the umbilical cord, most of the time what happens is it's starting to dry off and eventually it'll fall off. But sometimes there's a little bit of leakage that comes out. So we'll make sure to check that and make sure that that's not happening. And then they'll just check, they're not checking for too many developmental milestones at this first appointment. That's more as baby's getting older, but they'll just check reflexes, newborn reflexes and everything. And then they're going to talk to you about your feedings and how things are going at home. They're going to be asking you, how often baby is eating, if you're breastfeeding or not, and how often you're breastfeeding and how long you're breastfeeding, and asking about, your breasts in general. Do you feel like, babies, do you feel super engorged? Do you feel like, you're transferring milk? And then asking about baby's intake or output as well. So asking about, diapers, how many diapers is baby now, wet diapers and poopy diapers, and then answer any questions that you have. I always encourage people to have like if you have an iPhone, just have a little note app open and just, if you think of a question over the next few days, just jot it down so you don't forget it. And they're always, open to answering questions too.
And at number 2 for the most downloaded episode we have this year, we have Jessica from Married at First Sight talking about how she heard about the show and what made her go on. And she then goes on to share about her birth experience.
Well, actually, my sister, I have a twin sister, and she had just had a baby, and she was on maternity leave at home just binge watching TV with a newborn. And she was watching the show, and she was like, wouldn't it be crazy if they were coming to DC area so like I could be on the show? And she looked it up, and at that time they were recruiting for DC. She was like, so it's like a sign. So she signed me up, and they're like registered me, because I'd been doing the dating apps and just wasn't really working out. Just the same thing over and over on the dating app. So yeah, so she like registered me, and then nothing happened. It was like in April or March, and then nothing happened. I was like, oh, it's probably like they get thousands of people. And then like in May, somebody reached out to me and sent me some questionnaires and stuff, and I did some Zoom calls and some interviews, and then I was going to some workshops, and the next thing I know, I was being told that I was selected to be on the show.
Oh my gosh. So were you like mixed emotions, like excited and kind of like nervous going in, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Or how am I going to do this? Or
yeah, I mean, like I had been doing the dating apps for a while, and I was kind of tired of the same thing over and over. And I'm in my 30s. I was ready to actually have a like fully committed relationship. And I'd watched the show after she kind of like told me about it too. And I was excited about it. So I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot. You know, it's not working out this dating app way. It's not working out going to bars. So let's give it a shot. And yeah,
That's
next,
awesome.
yeah, I got very fortunate that I was matched with Austin and things worked out.
Oh, that's awesome. So what was it like? I mean, so you get married, so it's on TV, like how you get married and how you meet for the first time. And do you meet like walking down the aisle for the first time?
Yeah, he that I don't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about him until the wedding day. You're told you're getting married 2 weeks before the wedding date, and then you meet them at the aisle when you walk down. So I didn't know anything about him, his name, nothing. So it was an experience for sure.
And number one for the most downloaded episode this year, we have the amazing, kind, and down-to-earth Ophelia Nichols. This episode, she talked about how to be your kid's safe space.
And so I was going to ask, like, do you think because of like how your childhood was, your relationship with your mom, is that what kind of encouraged you, or what made you be the way you are and give you those words to say to people?
It's funny you asked that because I joined TikTok a year and a half ago. That short amount of time, a year and a half ago. And that account has grown from no followers to 5.1 million in a year and a half. When I first started it, you know, I'd make little small TikToks about the dogs or something like that. But as I was learning how TikTok worked, the main thing that I seen on the app was people suffering. Someone was losing a house due to COVID. Somebody lost their job. Someone was going through a loss of a child. It was endless. It was also during the election time, which made everybody crazy. So this video pops up, and it's of a young girl about 17, 18. And the video was about her buying this new dress from the store. And all she wanted to do was show her mom how good the dress looked on her. And it looked beautiful. It looked beautiful on her. But the reaction she got from her mother was a complete opposite. It was things like, you're too big for that. That doesn't look right for your body. You don't have the body type to wear that. That was all it took. I immediately learned how to stitch a video in about 5 minutes. I didn't know, I never did it before. I didn't know anything about it, but I learned it right then. And I stitched the video, and I don't remember word from word, but it went like this. I said, I used to have a mama like that too, honey. But the older I got, the more I realized that I quit listening to her. And then I said, you look lovely in your dress. I uploaded the video. I went and sat down at my desk, and for the first time, I understood what something going viral meant. Because within 30 minutes, it was almost at 1 million views. And when I seen the comments, I said, that's it. I can help people feel better about themselves. That's what this account will now be used from now on out. And it did, because what I do on social media is what I've always did with strangers, with friends, with family, I have so many stories, so many, but the app and social media is allowing me to get a bigger audience and to help more people at one time than just this person. So it was that video that I understood what she was going through, because I had a mama like that too. And I just stitched it, and that's how the account took off. So absolutely, people relate whenever they're speaking about their stories and their life. If they're actually going through that in that moment, or they have, and they've healed from that trauma, and they've been on this amazing, journey of healing. Yes, that's exactly why I am relatable on so many different subjects. Because hell, I've been through some stuff, honey. I have been through some stuff, but my life is good today. And my life is good today because I fought for it.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick little flashback on our top episodes from this year. I truly enjoyed going back and re-listening to some of these episodes. And I have to say that now that I'm pregnant, I'm going through a lot of these things myself. So I'm kind of re-listening to it and getting tips a whole new way and understanding the episodes a whole new way. So it's so much fun. Again, thank you to the wonderful guests that have come on our show. And thank you to our listeners, our mom community. You guys make this show what it is, and you inspire me to do more and work harder to impact and help as much as I can. So I appreciate you all. But that's all I got for this week. I hope you guys have a great Christmas or whatever you celebrate. And I will see you next week for a brand new episode of Mom Talks. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you get notified of future episodes. We release new episodes every single Wednesday. See you next week.